Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Lost Ark roster update series, where today I'm going to be talking about Windfury Aeromancer. This is currently probably my favorite class in the game, and she is a very high contender for me to actually main swap to her at some point, whenever I do have enough resources to do so, because she's kind of very far behind on my main at this point. But whenever I do get the resources, she's a high candidate to become my new main, because in my opinion this is just the best class in the game in terms of feel and in terms of gameplay. She's simple yet fun to play, she has a very high uptime gameplay, which is my personal favorite, and she just feels incredibly good to play. She doesn't really have any negative things about her. She's got a high crit rate, high uptime, good party synergies, fun playstyle, and what more could you ask for? So let's jump straight into that, shall we? Let's talk about the identity skill first. So her identity is this bar on the bottom over here, which you can fill up by just using your umbrella skills. They don't even have to hit the boss. As long as you are using them, they will be filling up your umbrella meter. Once it is full, you can then activate the skill to create this field around you, and this field will deal damage to the boss, as you can see right there. And as long as your allies stay inside this field, they also get an attack speed and a movement speed buff. On top of that, it does 3 more things for you yourself. The first one is it gives you an attack speed and a movement speed buff that lasts for 30 seconds. You can kind of see the wind swirling around me. That is that buff that I have, the attack speed and movement speed buff. On top of that, it also gives me an attack damage buff for all of my umbrella skills, which these are going to be our main DPS skills, and this stacks up to 2 times. So the first time that I use my umbrella, I get my first stack, and you can even turn it off if you want. And then you use the second time, and now I have my second damaging stack, as you can see down here, Path of the Wind. All of my umbrella skill damage goes up by 1.2%, 2 stacks, so 2.4% damage buff right there from just opening the umbrella twice. And last but not least, it will also give you the Occurrence Shield. Now, the Occurrence Shield is what Aeromancer is going to be playing around to deal damage. So the 4 skills on the bottom of my hotbar, those are going to be my main DPS skills, on top of also having the T skill and then the X skill over here on my identity gauge. Those are the 2 strongest skills, but when they're not available, we're going to be playing around the 4 on the bottom row of my hotbar. Now, in order for these skills to deal their damage, you can see that they all have the reversal tripod. So you can see it here, reversal on the second row, reversal on the first row, and the second row again. As it states, if a current shield is active, deal bonus damage. And to get that current shield, we can do 3 things. The first one is we can use spread. As you can see, current occurrence gives you that shield. And then we also have downward strike. Again, the first tripod over here gives you that current shield. So how does that work? Basically, we just need to hit the boss with the skill. We get the shield. We can then use one of our DPS skills to spend the shield to deal bonus damage. Again, we use a builder, we use a spender, builder, spender, builder, spender, you get the idea. Now our identity gauge, whenever we activate this, we're also going to get the shield, so we can immediately use a spender and kind of cut out a builder in our rotation whenever our identity gauge is full. In terms of the X skill, this one does not require a shield, so it just deals damage instead, just like that. And the same thing for our T skill, it just deals damage on its own, no need for you to use a builder. The last 2 skills that we then have are our synergy, which is this one over here. This is a very lenient one, it also comes back, and every time it hits the boss, it will apply your synergy, so it's very hard to miss this one. Like, I could literally throw it down here, and as you can see, I'm still getting my synergy applied, because it like kinda throws out mini umbrellas as well, so it's very hard to miss your synergy on this class. And then Whirlpool, this is going to be my judgment skill, because Aeromancer is kind of mana hungry, so having Conviction Judgment in your rotation somewhere is going to be quite useful. For Awakenings, you can run both of them, but I prefer running Nar's Blade. The reason being is that it does slightly more damage than the other Awakening, and it also fills up your identity gauge. So something you can do is, you can activate your identity at the start of a fight to get your first damage stack, then you can awaken on the boss to activate your identity a second time, and now I have my 2 stacks of Path of the Wind, and I can immediately be doing the maximum amount of damage that I could be doing on this class. Something like a rotation would kind of look like this. Just apply synergy, Conviction Judgment, start using your spender skills, P skill, X skill, activate your identity whenever you can, Keep your synergy applied, conviction, judgment. You can always use these back to back as the cooldowns line up. As you can see, a very active playstyle with very little downtime. Feels very good to play. So let's then talk about the build. So for the stats, as you can see, we're going to go crit swift heavy, but I'll talk about that a little bit more when we look at the Arc passive. Engravings, very straightforward. We're a Hitmaster class, so we're running Hitmaster, Grudge, Adrenaline, Curse, Dull, Raid Captain, because again, high swiftness class, and we also get attack speed and movement speed from our identity skill, so this just caps out Raid Captain really easily for us. If you play a higher swiftness variant build, which you can do if you want to, then you can also run Mass Increase. That's kind of the cap build right now, but I personally just feel like this build does enough damage and I don't have to worry about the penalty of Mass Increase. This just works out with everything. Like, I don't have mana issues, my cooldowns are low enough, I deal good damage, so I don't really see why I would be switching into this new build. So that's why I am running what I am running right here. For gems, kept it very simple. Damaging cooldown gem on all of your damaging skills, and then we also have a damage gem on Sun Shower, which is that identity skill. This does damage. You can put a damage gem on this as well. As you can see, it does pretty reasonable damage as well. So those are the gems. The only thing that's different from the standard build is that I run a cooldown gem on Whirlpool. Most people run a cooldown gem on the counter or the second builder skill, Downward Strike, because, well, I don't really know, to be honest, because I feel like these skills are always up when I need them, and I just felt like the tiny bit of extra cooldown reduction again on Whirlpool just makes it line up that tiny bit better with your synergy. So Conviction, Judgment, you can just always use those back to back. Let's then take a look at our skills. So these are going to be all of the skills that we are running. Tornado is our synergy skill. These are the tripods, and I'm running a Conviction rune on this. Spread is our counter skill, gives us a shield, also gives us a mana refund, and I'm running a poison rune on this. Downward Strike is our second builder skill, so we're taking the tripod over here. You can leave this at level 4 if you don't have the skill points. Same thing with Spread, you can leave this at level 7 if you want, but putting this to 10 and putting this to 7 just felt better for me, so that's why they are like that. Putting a bleed rune on this one as well. Whirlpool is our judgment skill. These are the tripods, again, mana cost reduction over here. Then we have Piercing Wind. This is our highest DPS skill if we're not taking a look at our T skill and our X skill, because the X skill is actually our highest DPS skill, this one over here. That's our highest DPS contributor, and then the T skill is the second highest contributor. So we'll just go back over here, but when those two are on cooldown, Piercing Wind is the next highest one. For the first tripod, you can actually choose which one that you want to run. I personally run Giant Squall, because it turns it into a ranged skill, and it has quite a bit of range. As you can see, you can still hit the boss from over there. But if you want, you can also turn it into an AoE skill instead. The upside to this is that you can hit the boss when it is behind you. So in, for example, Aegir Gate 1 on Akan, when he does that look away mechanic, you can just stand close to the boss, look away, and then just use the skill, and it still hits the boss while you are looking away. So that's the upside of that one, but I feel like the extra range just comes into use a little bit more often. The last one that you can then use is you can turn this into Vestige from Soul Eater, where it allows you to go through the boss so that you can reposition with this. But personally, I don't really like this one all that much, so I just stick to Giant Squall to turn it into that ranged skill. Instead, has a lot of range, just very comfortable to use. Then we have Rage. This is our third highest DPS skill, so third on the priority. Running Reversal, of course, the rest of the tripods, and then running a Focus rune. Wind Gimlet, second highest DPS skill, again outside of T skill and X skill. These are the tripods. And then Tornado Dance, this is your lowest priority skill. These are the tripods, again running a Focus rune. Then let's take a look at our Arc passives. So we'll start with the evolution tree. This is what I have set up. Again, there is a higher swiftness version that you can run if you want to do so, but then you'll probably want to take a second point into Zealous Smite. And if you do that, then you don't get a mana cost reduction from a limited magic, so you might have to run Mana Food if you do that. So that is why I'm just sticking with this build. Also running Supersonic Breakthrough because we are a high swiftness build, plus also getting a movement speed buff from our identity skill. So because of that, we can run Supersonic Breakthrough. It's going to be a little bit better than the rest. Standing Striker would be the other option, but it's just weaker compared to Supersonic. And Blunt Thorn, honestly, I don't like running Blunt Thorn, and you don't have such high crit rate that you can really make use of this. So either run Standing Striker if you don't want to go high into Swiftness, or run Supersonic if you do want to play high Swiftness. This is honestly my preferred build. For Enlightenment, just go all the way down and then take this node over here, Path of Wind. Talked about this one before already. This is the one that gives us that stacking damage buff, goes up to 2 stacks to give us that 2.4% damage in total. And then Space Cleave, this is our X skill, so the more points you can get into this, the stronger it's going to become. And when you get 3 points into this, it becomes the strongest skill that you have available. Last but not least, Leap 3, I am just going damage and cooldown reduction for the T skill. On short fights, you can just take the points out of here and put them into your Hyper Awakening instead. Don't really feel like we need instant spell, to be honest. And then for the second row, you can kind of choose. I took Perfect Cleave because it makes you deal more damage, and then it turns it into a holding skill where you have to land the perfect zone. But if you want, you can also put the Trained Cleave option on. Oh, whoops, I need to actually reset cooldowns because otherwise I can't change that. There we go. This turns it into an instant cast skill. Does a little bit less damage, but it comes out super fast. But I personally prefer to run the other one because it just feels better to me. And before you get to put points into your T skill, it also kind of functions the way that the holding skill does, because you need to hold it for a little while for it to deal its full damage. So this kind of kept it the most similar to what I was already used to playing, and it also does more damage than Trained Cleave. So that's personally why I've decided to run with that. So that's the Arc passive setup. Those are the gems, the engravings, the skill build. So I guess that covers just about everything that you need to know about Windfury Aeromancer. If you have any more questions, then feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll definitely get back to you. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow in the next video.